Welcome to episode 9 of Pig-Headed and Well-Read. As always, I'm Ethan Rowley with my friend and co-host Nate Skidmore. In this episode, we're covering chapters 33 through 38. Spoiler-free pod as always. Anything up through 38 is fair game. After 38, we will not be touching. We release episodes weekly every Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and also on our YouTube channel. Each episode covers about 50 pages of East of Eden. You can also follow us on our social media at Pig-Headed and Well-Read. If you're following along and you have your own insights, comments, jokes, or corrections, you can DM us, or you could also email us at pigheadedandwellread@gmail.com. Quick content warning before we hop in. Due to the nature of East of Eden's story and characters, throughout this read-along, we'll be touching on some mature and complex themes, including but not limited to abuse, violence, alcoholism, suicide, war, racism, death, and sex work. If these topics are at all difficult for you, please listen with care. Nate, what are you most looking forward to in this set of chapters?
Yeah, I think what's fun in this set of chapters is Aaron and Cal kind of becoming their own kind of fully formed out characters. Whereas before they were kind of supporting whatever was going on with Adam and Kate / Kathy, and now the story's kind of shifting to where it's going to be about them. And so what they do in this section of chapters is important.
All right. Well, we'll kick it back to our past selves and listen to it.
We will. These chapters, man, I was like, crazy how so much happened and so little.
That's what I thought too.
I kept waiting for the big thing to happen, and then like we finished the section, and I was like, I don't feel like anything huge happened, but so many little things happened. So yeah,
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, once I finished the reading, I was like, what am I even going to do? And I kind of started to like come up with an East of Ethan take and some Steinbeck stats, and that's when I realized, oh, a lot of good small plot advancements happened here.
This might be the hardest 3-sentence summary, just because like what do I even talk about?
Yeah.
So I guess Tom and Desi live together, trying to be happy, until Desi dies, and Tom probably kills himself. Maybe. And then we get an update on Steinbeck gives us a little summary of what we're supposed to be learning from this book, and then we learn about Adam and Cal as they grow up and what happens with their father and how he spends his money and how they kind of enter adulthood, and they both have important things happen to them. Like Cal finds their mother, he finds her, and Adam stays in love with Abra and becomes very religious. So
yeah,
I'd say that's my summary.
I'd say that's good. Yeah, very good high level. All right, chapter 33.
That's you,
Okay.
Odds.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking that I kind of wish that we had just done 33 last episode to have the whole Tom and Desi story in one, but Tom and Desi, they're living together, and it's one of those moments that the author has alluded to many times where it's time in a land of great fertility, and so people have forgotten the dry years and are maybe buying too much, more than they can afford, and there's a lot of work on the farm that Tom is doing, and it's just kind of this weird, when Tom and Desi are together, they're really trying to force this idea of happiness, and we're siblings, and we're so happy to be on the ranch, but then you get the split screen, and Tom and Desi have gone to their own rooms, and they're both kind of like sad.
Yeah.
So kind of tough, and the chapter just keeps getting tougher because of this external happiness, internal sadness, and eventually Tom and Desi realize that maybe they should like have some meaningful conversations with each other instead of just playing grab ass and having fun. And Desi asked Tom about why haven't you married Tom? And Tom is really down on himself. Why bother? No woman would want me. And then he kind of retorts back, why are you here? I don't think you want to be here. So they're kind of feeling each other out. I think they're hoping that the other person says what their thinking, which is this isn't really as great as I think it is, but they don't want to be the ones to say it to the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like how Desi makes a note here that Tom, to him, his really small sins, because he's not like a sinner. I think he maybe frequents a whorehouse a little bit, but like all in all, he's a good guy. But his small sins just seem way too great for him. That it makes him feel kind of unfit and unseemly. And so Desi thinks that I'll spark this greatness in Tom that our father saw, and the greatness is that let's have a plan to work really hard for a year and then go to Europe and see Bethlehem and Rome. What did you think of her proposing that plan? Do you think it was a good plan to spark that greatness, or?
Yeah, I mean, a good plan. Um, Hard to say. I think it's interesting. There it is, interesting. But Steinbeck, through his narration, kind of consistently uh takes shots at Will for wanting,
Mm-hmm.
like, I think it's in this chapter where he talks about how, like, Will would never have considered going on a crazy romping through Europe vacation until, like, you were well set to be retired.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, like, and Will's been the wet blanket kind of throughout the book of the Hamiltons.
Yeah.
Um, but it's not, that's not terrible advice. Like, it's not terrible to be like, hey, like, that's not a great plan to, like, like,
Yeah.
we're gonna work hard for 1 year and then go burn all of our money and be back at square one. Like,
Right.
I could, but I guess knowing that they're both gonna, like, die in the next little bit, like, maybe they should have done it sooner, right? Like,
Truly. Yeah.
um, and maybe that's what you're kind of supposed to take away, that the idea of waiting until your retirement is shored up and you have your assets and, like, you've calculated that you're set for life to have fun, like, maybe you won't make it there.
Mm-hmm.
And I
I
guess
think I
neither
think
Tom
that's
or
an
Desi
idea.
does.
Yeah, and I think that that's a big financial advice hot take online is you never know when you're going to die, go spend your money. And I think that's
Yeah.
actually put some people into really bad debt seeing that kind of advice. But their
Yeah.
plan is
Yeah, I
interesting.
mean, it's kind of like bad advice that is good. It's good advice that's bad advice.
Yeah, just don't take it to the
I
extreme.
think
Yeah.
maybe in life you can't you can't always follow good advice. You have to spend all your money in Europe, um
You can't always
because you're
follow good
sad.
advice. I like that.
Yeah, you can't always follow good advice.
Okay.
You gotta do something like this. I did also think it was fun that, like, they come to Will with this plan, and Will's like, "That's a good plan, but not for you." like he's like he's like, "Well, that's actually pretty smart to, like, buy a bunch of cheap little pigs and then fatten them up and sell them." And he's like,
Hmm.
"Not sure you can handle that." And it's like, it's just feeding pigs, Will. Like, it's
Right. Yeah, it's just feeding pigs, and Desi's going to go basically get free child labor by saying there's a contest of who can pick the most acorns to feed them, which I didn't know that pigs could live off of a diet purely of acorns until now. But yeah, I think Will thinks that he wished he'd thought of it, and maybe is impressed that finally Hamilton, that isn't himself, has a good idea, but
mm-hmm.
lacking in execution.
Yeah.
So Tom gets back from visiting Will, sees that Desi has a stomach ache, and so he whips up classic 1900s medication just called salts, which I think is some sort of antacid. And she drinks it, and it's kind of like, oh, I remember mom doing this for us. But eventually it makes her feel worse, and she tries to puke him up and goes to bed. And Tom just keeps saying, go to sleep, you'll be fine, you'll wake up and you'll be great. But at 10 o'clock, Desi calls him in, and Tom kind of has this really sudden, oh crap realization. And I don't know if he is thinking, here's how I thought. I think that he realized that maybe he put in something wrong, like he didn't do the
Mm-hmm.
salt recipe right. And so maybe he realized that he had messed it up, because he goes and runs and actually breaks down the door of the doctor in town and tells him what's going on. And the doctor basically says, go get your brother. And then he tells his wife she's dying. And then she dies off page. And the reason I think it's just
And Steinbeck loves to do that. Just have
he
people.
does.
He's like, and then later they were dead. It's like, man, like he
Yeah,
does not care to write about someone's final moments.
he doesn't. But yeah, it's interesting because I from what I read
It
online of how people interpreted it, is that he did everything right, and they think that Desi had appendicitis and that the antacids just accelerated her appendix bursting, and that's what killed her, or her appendix had already burst, something like that. That he didn't do anything wrong, but I do think it was really interesting that that thin scream awakened in him, and yeah,
well, yeah. I mean, the sentence that I kind of underlined that Dr. Tilson says is, "What's the matter with her? Is her stomach hard? What did you do? Salts?
hmm
You goddamn fool!" And it's like, so it seems like maybe like in he might have misdiagnosed her, right?
yeah, yeah,
Like the way the doctor reacts to salts is kind of like that was the wrong medicine to give someone. Like
hmm
you, but like I don't know how Tom would know. Um, I think it's just like, oh, like let me make this thing that my mom made with my stomach hurt, and then like
hmm
if it is appendicitis, I didn't do that research, but like the doctor seems to
yeah,
know pretty much immediately. Like, well, you don't give them salts for that.
yep,
And
yep.
that yeah, and then she died.
Yeah, even in the Journal of a Novel, Steinbeck didn't say like what Desi actually died of, which I was really hoping he'd say. So maybe it's kind of unknown the precise thing that killed her, but it was definitely the salts that pushed it over the edge. So sad, Desi dies off screen, off page, and we skip forward a week. Desi's funeral. Tom's coming back from it, and it's kind of this really sad scene of he's putting himself on trial, and like the pieces of furniture in the house are disgusted with him, and the lamp is avoiding him because he totally feels responsible for Desi's death. But it's kind of like this cartoony, over dramatic way. But he goes through like this personification of the sins, and it's laziness, envy, and gluttony that are like hiding murder, and he just goes right for the seven deadly sins. It's not even like any small sins that are he's trying to cover up with. I think he thinks that he's a horrible, horrible person, but he's not. He's
Yeah,
the guy that
yeah.
would, yeah,
I mean, they talk about it earlier in the chapter that like the small sins weighed upon him, and I think some people are like that, where small faults they feel they feel like a deep they have a deep consciousness towards like even small faults like hurt them very deeply, and some people are able to just do minor bad things to even really bad things and really not feel all that bad about it.
hmm
Like they're just kind of like some people are good at justifying what they're doing, right? Like they're doing something wrong, but they can justify it and they can live with it. And Tom, it seemed like earlier already had trouble living with himself with his small faults, and now that he does have a large fault, like I mean, if I was his friend, I would tell him like it's not your fault. But
hmm
I can see how he would arrive at the conclusion like my sister died and it's my fault. And I just don't think he's equipped to justify it or equipped to live with it.
hmm
Um, like if the small faults of being a single man who couldn't have a family, weigh at him so much, like the idea that he killed his sister is gonna send him over the edge, which it does.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's like I was trying to tie this into with other themes of the novel, and you said it really well, but just like how we don't know how to balance wanting to be good with the guarantee that we'll also make mistakes.
hmm
And so I think that just impacts a certain select number of people like Tom, where they would need to be perfect. So
yeah, and I think Will is kind of the foil for Tom. Like I think if Will accidentally killed Desi by giving her the
mm,
wrong medicine, he would obviously feel bad, but I don't think he would. I think he could pretty easily be like, "Well, I tried to do the right thing and I messed up,
yeah,
but life goes on." And I don't think Tom could tell himself that life goes on. I don't think he could be like, "It's okay." And I don't think he could forgive himself, right? So,
right, right, yeah. So he quickly realizes I'm already a dead man walking. Why not just finish it? But my mom's really against suicide, so
Mm-hmm.
I need to come up with this. Again, he's got some good ideas here with the fattening of the pigs and now how to cover up his suicide. I'll give him credit because they're pretty witty. But he writes this elaborate letter of, "Hey mom, I can't wait to come see you. By the way, I'm also training this horse that really likes to buck me off. But once I break him in, it's gonna be the best horse this side of the Mississippi." And then in a second letter, he writes to Will. It says, uh, "Just go with the story that the horse killed me. I'm sure you'll know that I killed myself, but just go with the story for mom's sake."
Yeah.
And drops those letter off at 3 a.m. and kind of, it says, gallantly heads back home, where we presume that he shoots himself. But he's like happy with what he's done.
Yeah,
Like this
I
is how I
think
paid for my sin. So
I think for people that struggle with like suicidal thoughts like that, I think when they're in the home stretch, there is kind of like a relief, sort of
mhm.
happiness that they've worked it all out. For people that really go through with it, I
Yeah.
think the people that end up not, I feel like maybe that's the part where they don't feel good about it and they back out.
Hmm.
Um, but for Tom, who it seems like, I mean, once again, like there's no paragraph that's like, and then he shot himself, but it's like, I mean, this happens and we don't hear about him for the next several chapters. So I assume,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah. Safe assumption.
save us some. Yeah, I mean, like you hear about like people they'll get in like the giving stuff away part of their suicidal ideation, um,
Yeah.
where like they've realized they don't have to worry about going to work or keeping all their possessions, so they start like giving people things and they kind of enjoy the generosity of like, oh, here's my Xbox, like you can just have it, I don't need it anymore, and like, oh, here's
Hmm.
my laptop, and like giving people things. And I think I've even heard of some people like that part of the process, like kind of will jolt them back to life. Where like, oh, I felt really good, giving some stuff away.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, some people, I mean, they don't. It doesn't help them. So,
Yeah. So
but yeah,
that's the chapter. One thing I was going to
sad
ask you too,
chapter though.
Nate, just to wrap this chapter up, is he's talking with like this imagination of his father, and he says, "I'm sorry, father, I can't help it. You overestimated me. You were wrong." So my question is, what do you think is more damaging to a child? The parents overestimating them or underestimating them? I'm going to go with overestimating because it constantly might feel like there's a bar you can't attain and you need to work for your parents' love and trust and confidence. Whereas underestimating, I don't think it's quite as damaging.
I think that depends. Like if it's like I think if a parent underestimates a child and basically and doesn't believe in them, um, there's a lot more the parent can do as far as not allowing the child to take advantage of opportunities where then they can look back at the end of their life and be like, wow, like I really could have done something if my parents had ever supported me. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's damage in that sense. Um, the idea that of like your parents believing in you and supporting you, and then you become a massive disappointment. Um, well, it probably hurts quite a bit. But I don't know which like because I think the idea that like, oh, my parents underestimated me, they didn't think I could do this, and then because of that I didn't become what I could have been. I think that would give you a heavy heart late in life versus
Mm-hmm.
like, my parents tried and supported me and I just wasn't good enough. There could be some acceptance there.
Yeah, it probably
I
does
don't know.
depend on the person. For Tom, definitely, I think if he had been underestimated, I think he would have fared maybe a little better.
Yeah.
Just trying to live up to his dad. His dad constantly saying there's this greatness in you, and then your dad
Hmm.
being like a top five greatest person to ever walk the earth. Hard shoes to fill.
Yeah, yeah. You definitely seem to weigh on Tom, and I do. My Nate's take is a little related to this, so
Yeah,
um, yeah, that's that.
yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, chapter 34. This is
34. Starting
this is a
part
fun
four.
It does start part 4. You're right. Maybe if we'd been wise, we would have just done chapter 33 in the last block. But nevertheless, um, so this is the chapter where Steinbeck's really going to kind of lay down, what this book is about, and he's just kind of pouring out his beliefs about what life is all about.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I don't know. I was trying to think of how I would summarize this, but like it's such a short chapter that I figure I would just read the sentences that I thought were the most, because he's laying it out very clearly. Like it's not super mysterious or convoluted here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna read the passages I underlined,
Okay.
if that's all right. It
Sounds
says,
great to me.
humans are caught in their lives, in their thoughts, in their hungers and ambitions, in their avarice and cruelty, and in their kindness and generosity too, in a net of good and evil. It occurs on all levels of feeling and intelligence. There is no other story. A man, after he has brushed off the dust and chips of his life, will have only the hard, clean question: was it good or was it evil? Have I done well or ill? Those are like 4 different sentences from the first couple paragraphs of the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's stuff that we've touched on here throughout the pod of like, well, I mean, Steinbeck's telling you pretty clearly, like, life is about good versus evil. This book is about good versus evil. And I don't know how he could say it any more clearly that at the end of your life, you only have one question: was it good or evil? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of dives into this Greek story or Persian story, basically kind of re-saying the same thing, right? Um, and then um, and then after that, there's a paragraph that says, uh, when a man dies, if he has had wealth and influence and power and all the vestments that arouse envy, and after the living take stock of the dead man's property and his eminence and works and monuments, the question is still there: was his life good or was it evil? Was he loved or was he hated? Is his death felt as a loss, or does a kind of joy come of it? Um, So yeah, so I mean, there he kind of builds out the question a little bit, like maybe more than good versus evil. Like, were you loved? Were you hated? Like,
Mm-hmm.
does the
It's
news of your
the
death make
measuring
people
stick, he
happy?
says.
Yeah. hmm Um, and then I guess before I was just like the last 2 paragraphs, I was going to read them completely just because I feel like really hammers it all home. But
Yeah.
I was trying to think as I'm reading this if I agree with him, just because it's a very black and white um, view to have. Um, and it kind of reminds me like verbal meme, the one with like the bell curve graph with the
Mm-hmm.
soy jacks. Like there's the dumb one, and then there's like the seething one, and then there's the wise one, and the
The
dumb one and
Jedi
the
one.
wise one
Yeah.
agree, and the
Yeah.
seething one disagrees. So it's like dumb thought, like it's only good or evil. Seething thought, there's so much nuance and context, and you can't possibly say if someone was good or evil. And then like wise thought, it's only good or evil. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of what I was picturing there. Like,
Yeah, I was actually picturing a meme too, but it's the 2 guys looking out the different sides of the bus, and the guy looking at the dark side is, oh, it's just so hard to be able to say if somebody's a good or evil. There's Everybody lives in a gray area, and then the guy looking out the happy side is, you're either good or you're bad.
you're either good or you're bad. But it is kind of like following the bell curve. Like it's a very childish way to look at things. Like something is good or bad. Um, and then like there's a lot of intelligence, but you gain wisdom and knowledge and experience, and you're like, well, there's always context. There's always a reason things are a certain way. Like, how could that be? Like, imagine it from their perspective. But then at the end of the day, the impact of people's actions and what they did, they're either good or bad. Like,
Mhm. And it's not so
so,
much good or bad. It's like good enough where people miss you.
hmm
Like I think going back to the age-old question of would you steal a loaf of bread to feed your family? And that person steals a loaf of bread, but he dies. His family's going to look back on him like a good man, but then maybe the baker is like,
The
that guy stole.
police
The police like,
stole
no, that
bread.
guy sucked.
That guy was a
So
criminal.
yeah, could just be in the eye of the beholder. But I don't know. I was kind of thinking of this where like super high fantasy, like Lord of the Rings or Chronicles of Narnia, are very black and white. Of here's good triumphing over evil, and then we can
hmm
compare that to like the 2000s TV series that swept the nation of Mad Men, Sopranos, Breaking Bad. Of here's this morally gray character that eventually tilts bad, and I think that there's an audience for both, but I think a lot of people love just the good triumphing over evil more than the morally gray character. And that makes me think that maybe it is a little bit more black and white than we'd like to admit.
Yeah, it's tough. Am I seething right now that I think it's not black and white? Am I coping? Um, yeah,
It's
I don't
it's
know.
a it's a good question though.
Maybe the take is that like if you're obsessed with like creating this gray area, you're bad.
Yeah.
It's like good people are just fine with it being black and white because they're on the good side. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I guess yeah, it's tough. I
So
mean, because think
okay,
about it, like what would you say? What would you say if Tom just died? Right, the chapter before this was Tom good or evil? Like what was Tom? Was he good? What did he
I think
do?
Tom, I think Tom was good because I think Steinbeck looks back on him fondly. He has
Steinbeck does.
those great memories of him with his sister, and well, he's kind of like the tooth fairy for them at one point. I think
Yeah.
Tom tried so hard to be good that he just couldn't carry the burden of greatness.
Yeah.
So I think Tom was. I think Tom was good. I think Sam was good. I think Will is right there in the Will Hebert. I don't know if maybe it's more of how will you be remembered as opposed to were you good or evil, or are they two separate questions of how you see yourself? The question you ask yourself of was I good or was I evil, and then the question that other people ask was he loved or was he hated?
Yeah.
But I
I
remember
guess
when
it.
we first started this book, I said, Nate, would you want to read chapter 34 to start off? And you said no. You just wanted to go right into it. Do you think for a first time reader, it's worth reading this chapter before, or is it good where it is on page 411?
I'd say you could read this. There's no spoilers in it, right? So
Yeah.
you could read this at the very beginning, and then you kind of know what you're looking for. I kind of like it where it is, where it's like, it's almost announcing. It's part four, the final part.
The final part. Yep.
It's almost like in a play where like they're about to do the final act, and like the narrator kind of steps onto the stage and reads this down, and now you're like, all right, now we're in the end game here.
Hmm.
Um, so anyway, I'm gonna read the last two paragraphs, and then I'll hand it off to you for chapter 35.
Yeah.
It says, in uncertainty, I am certain that underneath their topmost layers of frailty, men want to be good and want to be loved. Indeed, most of their vices are attempted shortcuts to love. When a man comes to die, no matter what his talents and influence and genius, if he dies unloved, his life must be a failure to him, and his dying a cold horror. It seems to me that if you or I must choose between two courses of thought or action, we should remember our dying and try so to live that our death brings no pleasure to the world. We have only one story. All novels, all poetry, are built on the never-ending contest in ourselves of good and evil. And it occurs to me that evil must constantly respond, while virtue is immortal. Vice has always a new, fresh, young face, while virtue is venerable as nothing else in the world is.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
kudos to Steinbeck and just his ability to write something philosophically great and simple, and just lay it out in really just two typed pages. So
Could have saved everyone a lot of time and just publish that as like a letter.
Yeah, I think
Book over.
that's where I really value a book that's like 600 pages as opposed to somebody's blog telling you this 7 ways to be a better person. Is you can read something like that, like something this short. I could see this being posted on the internet, but I think that you get it so much better when you like have all these characters to evaluate and try to put yourself in their shoes. So I like the
Yeah,
mix.
for sure.
All right, I'll start chapter 35 with just this little one line from Journal of a Novel where he'd just written chapter 34 and now he's setting up for chapter 35. And he says, so now we are about ready to go. We have a new kind of world in the Salinas Valley, and our timeless principles must face a new set of facts and react to them. Are you interested to see what happens? I am. And with that, we go into part 4.
All right.
Okay. Chapter 35. We've jumped ahead a little bit now because they are moving from their ranch into the Salinas Valley, into Desi's house. And like Lee's done with everything, he is doing all of the moving for Adam and the boys. And he's got them all moved in. And I imagine that maybe him having to do all the moving was sort of a catalyst for the speech he wanted to give of I'm out of here. I could just see him like
Mm-hmm.
stewing on it, like, oh, I can't believe they're making me do this. I'm ready to go do my. This is the last straw. I'm going to give my bookstore a shot. But he wants to leave to San Francisco as soon as he can, and the twins don't mind that he's leaving at all, which I think is really heartbreaking because he was their mom and dad for like 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
continues to be. And but Aaron, was it Lee or was it Cal or Aaron that said I give him like a week before he comes back?
Aaron thinks he's coming back.
Yeah, Aaron thinks he's coming back, and so maybe that's why he wasn't so heartbroken. I definitely, based on what we know about Cal and Aaron, I would have thought that Cal would be the one to pick that up because it seems like he's a lot more in tune with other people. But here we have
Mm-hmm.
Aaron hitting the nail on the head because it takes 6 days for him to come back. Um, Lee had a few lines though that he told Adam before he left that I wanted to talk about. One of them was, I hope I'm not so small-souled as to take satisfaction in being missed." And that hit me because I think I sometimes take satisfaction in being missed. Like if I'm leaving from visiting my parents, I'm like, oh, they love me. They miss me so much, you know?
Yeah.
But according to Lee, I'm small souled. And I don't know, is that way of thinking unhealthy? I think Lee is just such a grounded realist that I don't know if the way he thinks is necessarily healthy or unhealthy in one direction. I think that he's just the ultimate prime meridian of how humans should think and behave.
I think that's a bit intense to be like to not want to take satisfaction in being missed. Who doesn't want to be missed? That's basically what Steinbeck's whole last chapter was about. Was when you die, are
Yeah,
people gonna miss you? Like, um,
yeah.
so I think goodbyes are interesting because sometimes a goodbye kind of gives you what you want. Sometimes with a goodbye, like you get exactly what you need from it. There's just the right amount of like emotions and like when you know you're
Finality.
gonna have to say goodbye to someone for a long time, like you kind of envision it going a certain way, and sometimes it comes true. But I feel like it's not uncommon that a goodbye kind of underwhelms uh, the person hoping to get a nice, emotional, heartfelt goodbye.
Mhm.
Um, and that can be for a variety of reasons. Like I feel like the reason it doesn't necessarily work out here is the boys don't really understand the permanence of what he's at least saying that he like Aaron says he'll be back, but I don't think it's because like Aaron sensed that. I think it's just Aaron kind of thinks like as a child does, like, well, the world is my world. Like you can't
Mhm.
leave. Like of course you're gonna come back. You're basically my dad. And so um and
Yeah,
so
that's
I
true.
think the boys didn't really get the sense of like didn't really understand what it meant for someone to be like goodbye, I'll never see you again. Um and I think Lee kind of understood that. He wasn't too broken up about it. But like a goodbye can be underwhelming for a lot of reasons. Like you might not
Yeah,
be as important to someone as you thought you were, right?
that's true.
You're saying goodbye and you think it's going to be like a big long held hug and they're just like, "All right, man, like see ya." And
See
you're
ya.
just
Looks
like,
at their phone.
yeah, you're just like, "Hey." Like you're supposed to be sad about it. Sometimes you do mean a lot to a person, but like they're so hurt that you're leaving, they don't want to have like a breakdown, right? And so like
Right.
they'll kind of hide it. They'll play it tough where they're like, "All right, yeah, see you." Like no
Hmm.
big deal. And like but really they're hurting, but so that and then both people end up hurting, right? Because they you wanted your goodbye and they don't want you to go and um
Nate, I think you're just dialed in on the human experience. I do.
yeah,
Reading this book with you, man, you are dialed in on
it's
what
like
it is to be human.
I just understand what it is to say goodbye to people and have it be like, all right, I guess that's whatever. Um, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that Lee said that I do disagree with, at least in today's era, is there's nothing sadder to me than associations held together by nothing but the glue of postage stamps. If you can't see or hear or touch a man, it's best to let him go. According to Lee, you and I shouldn't be friends anymore because we live in separate cities.
We should be done. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
did I did also underline that.
yeah, it's for that era, maybe, but at the same time, like if I was Adam, that would have made me think of Charles.
mhm.
Of I can't believe I only tried. Well, he didn't even really try. Years passed without sending a letter to him, but even to him, that was like the best thing that he could have done to keep the relationship with Charles was just send a letter as opposed to using his money and going out there or sending him here. So
Yeah, I kind of thought about it because I was like, oh, is that good advice? Like, because this thing, it's really hard with all the technology as far as like social media to like meet someone, become close with them, and then leave and never really speak to them again,
right,
or have any association, right? Because you just end up kind of seeing like you're on social media and you're like, oh, my friend from middle school that I haven't spoken to, like they had
had a
a
kid.
baby, like, and so like not that it's held together with glue, but it's like with postage stamps, but like through these kind of social medias where you have these really stretched thin relationships. And so I kind of considered because I've like moved several times. Like, um, would I have been better off? Um, like when I grew up in Virginia and moved to Colorado when I was in high school. Would I have been better off if I didn't have a way of communicating with those people in Virginia anymore? Because as it is, I follow all of them on social media. I still see their stuff. Um, and that's fine. Like it's sometimes it's nice, but like I know sometimes you will post things that disappoint you, and you're like, oh, that's an unfortunate thing for you to be broadcasting that you believe that.
Yeah.
Um, and so like would it be better if for me those relationships just ended when I was 16 years old, and all I had was kind of like the memory of those people. Um, but then I don't know because like we communicate. We live very far apart. I have we have friends that live across the country that we all get together on these calls like this and um, talk to each other. So I think that's a really good thing. Like, but
Hmm.
maybe we do still see each other sometimes. Like I went out and stayed with you last year. You came out here um, a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I guess you could say like our relationship isn't really being held together by postage stamps.
That's true.
Like we
We still
because
try to see each other like once a
we still
year.
see each other. Yeah. Um,
Maybe it's more just about the effort than anything.
yeah.
Uh, but definitely a lot harder
I
back
don't
then
think
too,
I
because your message that you send somebody, how long does it take to get from California to New York and
yeah
then back? Like you're not getting instant communication. Could
I
lessen it.
think I think when Steinbeck wrote that too, I don't think he could possibly have comprehended the ease at which people were going to be communicating
Right.
in the future. Like a video call. Like, are you kidding me? like
Uh, they didn't
completely
even have
different.
Star Trek yet to
Yeah,
even conceive of these things.
exactly. He had to read Foundation and be like, I guess technology's going to
He
happen.
did, Foundation did come out like this
He's
same time.
yeah. He's reading. He was reading
Some
Asimov, and
Asimov.
he was like, all right, this is what it's going to be like. Would Steinbeck have had disdain for like Asimov publishing his book in a magazine and like just being like, this isn't literature. Like,
did you write this with pencil? Yeah.
yeah, I wrote this with a pencil about my uncle who died. Like,
Yeah. So to end the chapter, yeah, Lee comes back in 6 days, and turns out he was just really lonesome, and he just kind of had to go down that path toward the bookstore dream to help him realize that maybe it wasn't the dream he wanted all along. So better to do that than I think that's better to do that than to spend your whole life wondering if you had done that, what your life would have been. I think you just have to maybe go down there and make sure that was the wrong path. I was thinking about that with my upcoming move across the country. Is if I get out there and me and my wife hate it, well, at least we now know that we tried.
yeah, you won't be in an old folks home being like, we should have gone east. Like, you'll know. 6 days a little disappointing for Lee. I mean, I would have thought he could handle it. I think it does make the rest of his time with the Trasks in this book, just because like the next couple chapters he's in them, right?
Mm-hmm.
It does make it a little happier because like before he left, I was a little bit like, this poor guy, like he had ambitions and he never got to do them. But now that he left and came back, now it feels like it's more his choice to be working for them and less like he got stuck there.
Sure.
So I think it makes him, makes it so he's no longer a sort of tragic character that you feel any sort of sympathy for. Not that he was ever asking for sympathy, but you were like, I wish this guy who's like clearly pretty smart could have like lived his life and not gotten stuck babysitting
with
for a
Mr. Adam
decade.
Trask. Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess he liked it, so he's back, and
He's back.
now that's kind of a
Good point. Okay, 36.
36. Okay. Now we get some Cal and Aaron. My goal is that I am not going to accidentally call Aaron Adam for the entire chapter.
Okay.
If I do, I want you to shock me with through the computer. I don't know. We don't have the technology for that, but so the boys go to school, and you kind of get that fish out of water, sort of like here are these country bumpkins going to a real school. They talk about how crazy it is that each grade has its own teacher. And like they consider that grandeur, like the grandeur of having a teacher for each grade. And I think right away you see Cal kind of get to work on manipulating. Like he sets up this method, and as you're reading it, you're like, it makes a lot of sense, right? He kind of figures out that the teacher calls on people that she thinks doesn't know the answer. Mm-hmm. And so he tells Aaron, like, we're gonna study super hard at the beginning, and we're not gonna raise our hands so that she'll call on us, but we'll know the answer. And then the next week, we're not gonna study, but we're gonna raise our hands. And then by the third week, she won't even know what to do. And that way we won't have to work hard. And so you're kind of listening to that. I guess that's smart, Cal. Like, and then the very next sentence is like, but the boys were smart, and they really didn't need to be doing all of this. Like, they could have just done a normal amount of schoolwork and probably been fine.
Yeah. This actually made me think of when I was in 11th grade, the first day of school. For my English class, our teacher made us do like this thing where we put our name on one side of a popsicle stick and then like a congratulatory thing on the other side. So that if she wanted to, she could go to your tin and pull it out and say, all right, Nate, what's your answer? And you'd say the answer, and then you'd say YOLO or whatever the phrase was back in 2014. YOLO, man. But I never put my popsicle in. And so I knew I'd never get called on. Never got called on that class.
Just so that the teacher, you just break the popsicle into your.
Yeah, we all left, and I pretended.
It kind of reminded me of. Yeah, she never sorted through them. Nope. You could just be like, "You lost my popsicle stick." It reminded me of The Sandlot, where they throw the ball over the fence, and Smalls is like, well, let's go knock on the door, and they're like, he'll kill you if you knock on the door, and then they do all this crazy stuff to try to get the ball back, and then they finally, like, it ends with like the big chase where the dog gets out and the fence collapses, and the guy comes out and he's like, he's like, why didn't you just come knock on the door? I would have given you the ball. And like, and, that's kind of what Cal and Aaron did here, where it's like they worked at this whole thing to like avoid the teacher, but it's like you're probably smart enough to just
Yeah, if you're
play it
smart enough to
straight.
manipulate, you're smart enough to just do some normal studying.
Yeah.
I mean, World War One and
Um,
Two hadn't happened yet. I'm sure history class was a breeze.
history class super short. They're like, you guys remember George Washington? They're like, my dad does. And like, it's like everything that happened last month.
Yep, we're just reading a newspaper.
Anyway, we get a little more. Steinbeck likes to do this where it's like, here's our fifth time getting a feel that like Cal scares people and everyone likes Aaron. Like he takes every opportunity every time they enter a new situation, and he's like, just so you guys know, nobody likes Cal and everyone loves Aaron, and Aaron's blonde and Cal has dark hair.
Hmm.
Um, and that kind of plays out in their new school, right? Aaron has friends. Cal doesn't really have friends, but like people are kind of scared of him, so he's kind of like a leader. Like he wins at marbles, and then he trades the marbles, and he's kind of a dominant personality. Um, and I guess you do also get a reminder that Aaron's a tough fighter. That like some kids tried to like pick on him, and he beats some people up.
Hmm.
So people learn not to mess with him. But
Did
it's
you
just
have to
an
bring him to
interesting
tears?
combo that he's kind of this. Yeah, he's kind of this shy, soft-spoken guy, and then he will just like fight you, like and win. Anyway, then we get Aaron and Abra hanging out, and this is a fun little conversation. It seems like Abra has. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right. Is it Abra or Abra? How would you say
I
it?
think I think it's Abra.
Abra. She
Yep.
appears to have gotten over the box thing that Cal did, and so they talk about wanting to be married, like cute little kids. We'll be like, oh, we're gonna get married. Um, and Aaron keeps saying like, oh, I guess it'll be a long time before we can get married, and Abra's like, not that long. Um, and so they keep talking about this, and like, then they're like, we should just pretend to be married. We should practice. And then Aaron's like, little freak Aaron. He's like, what if we practiced with you being my mom? And they do that. And Abra cradles him, and he cries, which is probably fine, which is probably nothing.
I just can't believe
And
she is okay with doing this. Because like they've been in a relationship for a while now, and I think
I
if I
don't.
was her, I'd be tired of being your mom.
I think at this point it's not that long, right? It's just this is pretty early. It says
Okay.
this is like the first day of school. Yeah, first day of school he pursues her, and I think this is that same day.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and so it's kind of a continuation because she hinted that she would be his mom last time they spoke, and he's clearly been thinking about that. Where he's like, I gotta find this girl. Um, and so she cradles him, and she asks some questions about his mom and yada yada, and it's like as she was asking questions, as the reader, as the first time reader, I was like, I think she knows about his mom. Like, I think she's trying to feel him out.
Hmm.
Um, and then she asks him if he can keep a secret, and he says yes. And she tests him. She's like, "Well, tell me a secret," and he refuses to. Mostly in the sense I get is that he does not actually have a secret
Hmm.
worth sharing. I think he probably would have shared a secret if he had one. But because he doesn't share one, she says, I'll share a secret with you. And she tells him that she overheard her parents saying that his mom was alive. And so she doesn't know where she is or what she does. She doesn't know what Kathy's up to, but she passes information all along to Aaron. Um, and Aaron's kind of upset. Like he kind of wrestles with the idea that like, well, if my mom's alive, that means my dad's a liar. It means
Hmm.
Lee's a liar, and he's kind of upset at what that means. The idea that you've been lied to your whole life. Um, so he kind of wrestles with that, and I mean, it's kind of interesting that that's so upsetting to him. I think, like, if if your mother, if you were in Aaron's situation and you found this out, like, I feel like I would be like, well, they must have had a good reason to lie to me. Like,
Yeah.
I think I would give them the benefit of the doubt. But Aaron's like, it pains him so much, the idea that they are lying, that he almost can't believe that his mom could be alive. Like, he's like, well, your parents must have been wrong.
Hmm. I think it doesn't he think too that like that means anything else they could have told me is a lie. If they
Yeah.
lied to me about this, then anything is potentially up for grabs at being a lie. So Lee
Yeah.
was right again chapters ago when he said, I think you need to at least tell a part truth.
Yeah.
Aaron probably could have been better if Adam had told him, yeah, your mom's still alive. I don't know where she is. And then he could just fall back on, oh, I didn't know she was in town
I didn't
for a
know
little bit.
I didn't know she was in charge of that whole house. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Um. Anyway, then he just kind of goes. He kind of wrestles with it and goes home and doesn't really confront anyone. And that's kind of the end. That's the end of chapter 36.
Aaron almost makes this decision to believe that his mom is dead, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He says he got to his feet and pushed his mother back into death and closed his mind against her. And he felt that something had to die, his mother or the world, and so he chooses his mom. And so just the recycling of how Adam kind of chose to believe that Cyrus was earned his money faithfully in a good way, whereas Charles knows the truth. And Adam's confronted with the truth but chooses to deny the truth. Here is Aaron also denying the truth. And
Yeah.
I think in a more interesting way and with more higher stakes than Adam denied the truth about the money.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, since they both kind of know that Kathy's alive, who do you think right now, if it came to it, is best equipped for a confrontation with Kathy?
Almost certainly Cal. Right.
And Cal?
Like, I don't know if Aaron's equipped for anything.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's equipped to do.
Okay.
Um.
I agree.
I guess we'll get to that in my predictions. I'll have to predict something.
Okay. For the reader out there too, for the listener.
Yeah. Reader, listener.
Okay, chapter 37. Kind of the meatiest chapter, plot-wise, I would say, of this section. It's now 1915, so it's like 4 or 5 years into the future. And Lee is unpacking life in Salinas. He's getting them hooked up with the best money can buy inside their little house, making sure their home is super modern. Adam becomes like a hipster record collector. He goes and gets the phonograph and gets records to listen to, subscribes to magazines. He even joins the Freemasons. And the earliest data point I could find was 1930. And in 1930, the percentage of American men that were Masons was between 5 and 6%. And it's like steadily declined over the decades. So who knows? Maybe it was like close to 1 in 10 men in 1915 were Freemasons. But I don't know about the statistics in California. It seems like a lot of people were doing that though back then. But Adam's reaching the point now where he feels like he needs some fulfillment in life, despite Lee saying you have money, which I don't really get from Lee. I think that Lee should be pushing him towards finding some fulfillment, but maybe Lee is doing it to protect him, thinking that this guy doesn't know how to work at all. He'll just lose his money if he tries a business venture. Because Adam becomes hyper-fixated on refrigeration and learning about bacteria, the stalling of bacteria spreading, and he tries to turn it into a business plan, but this is like all Adam can think of is refrigeration. And I like how he makes the distinction that he's looking for work, not a job. And I think that's what a lot of wealthy people might do, especially maybe people that are married to really wealthy people, and they can go open a store in downtown San Francisco that loses $10,000 a month, but they just want it for fulfillment, just for some work instead of a job. Good distinction here between work and a job when it comes to being in the 1%. But
yeah, I think that's like a famous tweet, right? Where it's like the levels of wealth, which is both parents work, one parent works, and the other parent runs a business that loses $10,000 a month.
Yeah,
like that's real wealth right there. Just we're just shoveling money into the furnace.
just so you can feel
but
fulfilled.
It's honestly that's one of the only good things that rich people do. Is create businesses that can just that aren't good enough to exist, but provide something interesting.
Hmm.
Like I was in Dallas a couple months ago, and like there's just like a shop in downtown that just sells cards, like the way that they do like at Target. And I was like, there's no way this card store can like afford rent
Yeah.
in downtown Dallas. Um, but they do. I'm like, I'm glad this is here. I'm happy
Hmm.
for it. I don't fully understand.
Money laundering.
Maybe I would choose a more convincing business than cards.
Yeah.
Like yeah. Anyway, um, yeah. Carry on.
Yeah. So Adam has this idea of people in New York really want fresh produce in the wintertime and they don't get it. But here in California, we can make fresh produce all year round. So what if I bought an ice plant and used this ice to fill it with train cars together with produce like lettuce and shipped it across the country to people where they didn't have it? And he goes and gives this idea to Will, businessman Will. And Will uh, shoots him down. He gives him all the potential negatives for it. He says, what if the train stops? What if, and which ends up happening. But Will um, basically says that people might not even have an appetite for produce in the winter out there because they've never had produce in the winter. So I think that more than anything, Will was just hoping that Adam would agree with him. Was hoping that Will was thinking that Adam was hoping that Will would agree with him more than anything, is what Will says. And so I think he kind of got a little angry about that, and then get some whiskey in him, and he loosened up, and still doesn't think that he should get into this. But he says that there's a better idea that he has, which is beans, because we're about to go into war, and beans are imperishable goods, and you can buy them up right now and then sell them out when the country is really in dire need of them. And he leaves, and Adam says, "I'm just going to go buy that ice machine." I think
Mm-hmm.
I would. I think I would have gone with the beans. Will just gave you his idea after a couple drinks that he probably was keeping close to the chest, and I think that's what he should have done. But he goes against the gut.
Yeah, we don't really know Adam's full financial situation. I mean, we're assuming he just has incredible wealth.
Hmm.
Um, would and so like, we do get a hint later on after the business venture fails. We get a number right of money that he has. It's not
Nine
very
grand.
9 grand. Do we know what that was in
Two eighty
1915
six.
dollars? 200,
286,000.
200. That's I mean that's not live the rest of your life money, but
Plus, he
that's a
still got
healthy
his
amount.
ranch. He got some real estate. You know.
Yeah, he's not fully cooked. But I don't know. So like when I thought he just had unlimited funds, I thought the refrigeration thing was an interesting idea. I mean, we live in the future for them, so we know that that is a thing that people
Yeah.
like. Like I can just reading about it, I was like, I forgot that's something that isn't a given that you could just have all types of food all year,
Hmm.
um, which is just
Yeah.
insanely privileged.
He was
Um,
he was ahead of the curve by about 10 years because I saw that the first refrigerated train car didn't come out until 1925.
okay, yeah. So
So
he thought of something that was a good idea. It just wasn't quite ready. I think you probably, to get that to work, you need the railroad people to be invested in it working more so than just you being the one guy.
mhm.
Like you need like the marching orders for the railroad to be like, get this produce over there in this time.
Mhm.
Do not let it sit. Do not deprioritize it.
Yep.
Which it's just hard to do when you're just one rich man who like buys a refrigerated train car and is like and just hooks it onto a train and it's like there we
Adios.
go. Like,
Also, did they have 10-day forecast back then? Because one of the reasons too is there's like an unseasonably warm winter in the Midwest.
oh
Maybe
really?
if he had a 10-day forecast, he would have known to delay it by a week because he goes and tries it by late 1915, and people are really excited to like see this train car head out to New York. but nobody has invested in it. So I think they're excited that it could work, but ultimately deep down they think that it won't. And yeah, it stopped 2 days in the Sierra Nevadas for a storm, super hot in the Midwest, in Chicago. It stalls for 5 days. It gets to New York and it just has spoiled. So Will looks like a genius. Everybody else in town, they look like geniuses. But they start kind of being mean to the Trasks because Adam's being called a fool by people in Salinas. Um, the kids at school are calling them the lettuce heads. Like,
It's tough.
so they're now Aaron, on top of like hating his dad for hiding the truth that he's now buried into his soul, is now hating his dad for his failure of the train car because everybody thinks that Adam's lost everything. Aaron's noticing too that Abra's father looks at him differently because now he's not the son of a really wealthy man, he's the son of a failed businessman. And so Aaron is really feeling this failure, I think, more than Cal is, and maybe more than Adam is. It's really impacting Aaron.
Adam's kind of like, meh.
Yeah.
Like, surely someone else will die and I'll inherit millions of dollars
Right.
again. This keeps working out for me.
So
everyone's like, why aren't you more upset? And he was like, I was a drifter.
I was on a road gang, man. I escaped prison. I'm hardened.
Yeah. I'm crazy. My wife shot me in the chest.
Yeah.
And
that's kind of how the chapter ends. Is he goes on a little date with Abra. They have a celery tonic, which is interesting. The 1915, a celery tonic was the drink of choice. And I guess people make them nowadays. I saw it I had to Google it. People like making it with gin, but I don't think the kids were drinking it alcoholically.
They were drinking virgin celery tonics.
Yeah. But Cal kind of brings it up to Abra, who's also paying for the date. But Abra relinquishes him from the promise of, you can't ask your dad about what I've told you.
Mm-hmm.
And he just runs off. Abra can't find him. And he's just upset up in his room in the house. And then
they're like 15 years old now, right? Because aren't they born 15. Like right at 1900?
Yep. They're 15 now. So decently normal response for a 15-year-old. So
always interesting how Steinbeck like informs you like once every 100 pages what year it is.
Yeah. But I think it's kind of like, I don't know if he was trying to do this, but it's kind of like how the Bible lets you know of time jumps. I think he was trying to make it similarly in style to how the Bible time jumped.
This is his American Bible.
Yeah. But we learned a little bit more about Cal and Aaron in the last two paragraphs that I really liked. Primarily more about Cal. He says, Cal had to learn loneliness. For a very short time, he tried to join Abra and Aaron, and they didn't want him. He was jealous and tried to attract the girl to himself, and he failed. Aaron had to work harder to learn, and Aaron had a greater sense of accomplishment when he did learn. But Cal drifted, and always there was a darkness about him. So I kind of thought that was another Cain illusion, because Cain is a drifter wandering, and now Cal is kind of wandering here. But it's interesting because the wandering and the drifter was kind of like Charles before, but that happened after the whole offering thing. And this is happening without an offering really being made. So I still think that's probably a little bit of a Cain illusion there, just maybe the timeline is different.
Perhaps. All right. We ready for 38?
38.
Okay. Let me get to there. Sorry, I have stuff underlined, so I like to have it opened here. All right. So, 38. This is a Cal chapter. We got all Cal stuff here. Talks about how Cal likes to sneak out and wander around at night, and that this seemed like Lee, Lee's kind of their actual parent, like that Lee was kind of fine with it. The police were kind of fine with it. And people were just like, oh, that's like the weird kid that likes to wander around. And on one of these nights, when he's wandering around, he comes across Rabbit Holman. Who do we know him from somewhere? What's he from? They said his name like we should know it. I didn't recognize it.
I don't think he's been mentioned yet, except
He doesn't.
maybe very briefly in passing. But I couldn't remember him.
It was familiar. Anyway, he meets Rabbit Holman here, and they go to the bar, and Rabbit gets to drinking, and in his drunkenness, he doesn't really realize who he's talking to. He thinks he's talking to some of his other friends. He says George. He calls him George. He calls him Harry.
Mm-hmm.
And as he's drunkenly talking to Cal, he says, "Hey, you know what we should do? We should go to Kate's place." And he just basically completely blows Kate's cover, which. Just thinking about it, it's like, how often are you talking about the whorehouse's origin story like this? What a funny thing to do. Like, because he's literally like, if you remember who Kate is, it's Adam Trask's wife, mother of them damn twins. She shot him and ran away, plugged him in the shoulder, and just run off. And then this sentence, which if you're a child hearing this about your mother, I'm sure this is not good. It's like, she wasn't no good as a wife, but she sure as hell a good whore. You're just like, your Cal's just like, just hanging on for dear life. Just like, oh yeah, is that right?
Yeah. I would be interested to see how the interaction will be in the show for this. But I was thinking the same thing with you. Like, man, this just feels like incredibly convenient writing.
Yeah,
Because I wish it had been more of just like Cal had to go gather like some pieces here and there just by eavesdropping on different groups of men instead of just Rabbit telling him everything. But maybe Steinbeck was realizing I got to wrap this thing up.
Yeah. And so anyway, so then Cal and Rabbit, they go on over to Kate's, and
The circus.
he goes in there, right? And like with a lot of important events, what happens, we don't get to read it, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking like, man, what are we about to read about what Cal experiences in there? Like, is he going to do some insane BDSM whorehouse stuff? And we don't even know, right? We don't know what he
It seems
did
like
or exactly.
he just kind of watches it from like the windowsill or something.
Maybe he just watches.
It seems like he's just watching the circus.
You think he just watched?
Yeah.
Even so, we don't even know exactly what he saw, which I think is intentional. But from Steinbeck, I think that allows the book to age pretty well. Like, I guess he gave us some hints when Kate was showing off her photographs of kind of the stuff they were doing, but
Yeah.
I think keeping it vague allows people's imagination to imagine whatever they feel like would be a disgusting, sort of wildly inappropriate whorehouse. And it's not overly dark. Maybe it's worse than what you're thinking right now. Maybe it wasn't as bad. Like, I don't know. But he comes home and he confronts Lee about his mother. And he basically, he says the sentence, "I know where my mother is and what she's doing. I saw her." And it says Lee says a quick prayer, and then asks him what he wants to know. And Cal says, "Are you going to tell me the truth?" And Lee says yes. And then they follow a pretty logical line of questioning, which I thought was noteworthy because so many times in this book and maybe in media in general, like, people are intentionally shown as in anguish or acting illogical in this, but like Cal just follows a very deadpan line of questioning about this. Like, why'd she leave? Why'd she shoot him? Did he hurt her? And like, just kind of bang, 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 all these questions. And Lee's answering honestly. And then he gets to some more, because he starts off with with questions about events. Like, did this happen? Did this happen? Which that's yes or no.
Yeah.
And then he starts asking Lee what he thought. And then Lee kind of gives himself a little breathing room, being like, well, I can only tell you what I thought of her. and that's not even necessarily who she was. Um, but he doesn't really sugarcoat it. Like, he says that she was full of hatred. He said there was an anger. It was heartless. Um, and then, you know, that's kind of the skinny, right, that he gives him.
Mm-hmm.
And Cal's pretty upset. And Cal kind of asks about his dad. Um, it was just, and this has got to be an interesting realization for Cal, because, like, I'm sure as a young boy growing up with your dad being all weird and distant, you just assume that's the way it should be, or because that's how it is in your life. But I'm assuming, like, he's hearing the story of what happened to his dad and how, like, his mom shot his dad and it broke his heart and it basically killed him. And, like, now he's kind of understanding what was wrong with his dad for the first 10 years of his life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
it's like the stuff that made him so easily ready to manipulate other people allows him to also empathize with other people because he knows how people will act and behave, and what buttons to push. Now he can really understand what his dad is going through, probably more so than Aaron is, because Aaron's not as in tune to the people around him.
yeah, and I feel like it's interesting. It's interesting. Cal's reaction here, because we already got Aaron's reaction to learning part of the truth, and that is where he was so upset, like he just basically deluded himself. Where, like, the idea that his father was lying to him basically would have killed his whole world.
Mm-hmm.
And when Cal finds out, like, he decides that he loves his father and he's mad at his mom, and so, like, it seems like he's a little bit more understanding of the reasoning behind the lies, and doesn't really take offense to being lied to.
Yeah,
And
he
is
hated the
on
lie,
his
but not the necessity for the lie.
yeah, and
Oh,
he's
wait, no,
on his
he didn't
father's
hate the lie, but the
side.
necessity for it. Yeah.
And then it's interesting. It's interesting. I gotta stop doing that. That's making it worse. But he says that he hates his mom, and he says he hates her because he's got her in him. And Lee reacts pretty sharply to this. He jumps up and he's like, "That's not true. That's not right. You're your own person." Um, and I'm gonna read what he said here. I think it's really interesting. Um,
Interesting.
he says, he says, "Don't you?" He says, "You've got the other two. Listen to me. You wouldn't even be wondering if you didn't have it. Don't you dare take the lazy way. It's too easy to excuse yourself because of your ancestry. Don't let me catch you doing it. Now look close at me so you will remember, whatever you do, it will be you who do it, not your mother."
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Very much
and
infused with Tim Shell.
yeah, and just this idea of personal agency and choice. Because I think he can see Cal kind of spiraling a little bit and being like, "Is this who I am? Is this why I am the way I am? Like, I have this evil mother, and I act like her." And Lee decides to kind of nip it right in the bud and be like, "Nope, nope, you're yourself. You're your own person. You wouldn't be." He's like, it's almost like he's like, "I can see the conflict within you, and that the fact that the conflict is there means that you are good and you're trying
Mm-hmm.
to be good, and you're not like your mother."
Yeah. You're not a sociopath. You're not devoid of
Yeah,
emotion and empathy for other people.
yeah. And so that's kind of the end of the conversation. And then last page and a half, we get kind
A
of
speed run of the character
yeah,
development.
mm-hmm. Where Cal and Aaron continue to grow up, and I mean, I'm trying to think of what goes on with Cal here. Um, yeah, I think he just kind of has a sympathy for his father. Like, he tries to help him out, tries to allow him to tell him about his mother, but doesn't really push him. He asks him about the bullet scar, and Adam lies about it, and he doesn't. Cal doesn't push on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of a different path than you maybe would have thought. It's almost like finding out about his mother kind of activated this empathy side of him. And then on the other side, Aaron kind of goes down this other path as well that was pretty unexpected for me. I certainly didn't see this coming, where, like, he converts to this Episcopalian church, and gets really into it, and maybe a little too into it, and
Yeah.
like he decides he's going to be celibate, and his longtime girlfriend's like, but not forever, right? And he's like, no, forever. We'll see if that actually lasts, but
Yeah.
he's determined he's going to be celibate, which I guess, dude. And then he and then he also like he kind of does. This is like a very like stereotypical unhinged new to religion person, where it's like like he starts off trying to convert Cal by being nice, and then when Cal doesn't go for it, he condemns him. He damns his soul.
You're going to hell.
It's like great work, bud. You got him. You did it.
He'll surely convert now. Yeah.
Yeah, you really got in touch with him.
It's that line that says Aaron had reached a point of passionate purity that made everyone else foul. Who does that remind you of? Kathy.
I was gonna say he's almost on the other end of it, where it's like Kathy was so evil, everyone was foul, and like Aaron's become so pure that no one else is good enough.
Yeah.
So they're kind of going like, I'm imagining like a graph, like where they both started off and then they're intersecting. Like Cal's becoming more like Adam, and Aaron's becoming more like Kathy, but they're going kind of opposite routes to get there.
It feels to me like Cal's the most well-rounded of almost any character in the Trask story, because there's Sam and Lee, but outside of it, they're probably the most well-rounded. But Cal is able to learn from his parents a little bit, and sees Aaron kind of motivated him a bit too, because that's what first wanted him to be good, and now he has this goodness for his father and knows the story about his mom, and Lee has set him straight of it's you make the decisions, but like learn from the past, don't be the past. He's getting a leg up on Aaron, I think, by discovering the truth.
Yeah, and I think it's good writing by Steinbeck because he kind of subverts our expectation with the way these two characters are going. Because like
For sure.
through this point, I mean, there's been twists and turns, no doubt, but like a lot of the good people have been good and the bad people have been bad. And when Aaron and Cal were introduced to us, it was like, here's Aaron, this light blonde, honest, happy child, and Cal, this dark, manipulative, like who reminds you of Kathy. And in chapter 34, Steinbeck talks about this inner turmoil between good and evil within you, and it's like Cal is kind of our example, and maybe I'm totally wrong, maybe he's gonna totally flip, but Cal's kind of our example of someone winning that battle as time goes on. And Aaron, I don't think Aaron's done anything bad yet. Like he's maybe gotten a little heavy-handed with his purity and religiousness.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't necessarily condemn him that he's lost this battle, but I think he's heading in a direction that's a little uncomfortable. And we don't know what's going to happen, or what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. So
No say. One thing I wanted to say about this chapter real quick was Steinbeck, as he was writing this, he specifically called out to his editor. He said to watch for the subtle, gradual development in Aaron. And he was writing this before he even wrote this part. And it feels like it wasn't all that subtle. I don't know.
Maybe it was going to be more subtle, and then he was just like, you know what? Aaron kind of sucked. Aaron got really annoying about church.
Right. Yeah, it's like the first time I felt that Steinbeck had an idea for something and then just didn't follow through with it as he was writing it actually in the book.
I mean, yeah, I feel like he says it pretty clearly, like had a purity that made all others foul. And it's like, that's not really how purity is supposed to work. Or like, that's not like, you're not supposed to become so good that everyone else sucks now. Like that's I think it's an incorrect viewpoint you got there, Mr. Trask.
Right.
So
Yeah, and then one other call out too is just to tie this to the Tom story, because Steinbeck was, and I'll get this into the Steinbeck stats a little bit, but Steinbeck was really wanting to make sure that Tom's story was effective. He really wanted to get it right, and I kind of saw this contrast between Tom and Aaron, where Tom, he succumbed to the sins that he hadn't really committed yet, and
Mm-hmm.
Aaron is like triumphing over sins he hasn't committed because he thinks he's so much better than people. And so that's where I think that maybe the story of Tom is effective, is just another character to foil Aaron's development of how he treats sins in his life. But just another observation I had. I have a ton of more meat on that bone, but it seemed like they're just a little bit parallel there.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, let's move on to our next little section, which is Nate's takes.
It's takes.
Yeah. So my take is related to in chapter 33, Tom's suicide, and I decided I'm going to try to keep it short. I've had some Nate's takes that got a little long on me. Um, and my take is that it's very clear as you read about Tom that Steinbeck felt a lot of affection towards him.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe some of that had to do, and like it's always contrasted with Will, who Steinbeck clearly held in at least a little bit of contempt. Like giving him what I would deem unnecessary uh, amounts of context as far as what he's thinking in moments, being like, and Will did not believe that, and it's like you didn't know what your uncle was thinking, and I don't want to come off as the Will defender. I don't want to hand it to Will, but I kind of was thinking about it, and I feel like some of it has to do with Tom dying while Steinbeck was still very young, because Steinbeck's got to be around the twins' age, right? Like that's got to be more or less
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
how
so.
old he is. Because old enough to have known Tom and have memories of him, and Tom dies, I'm assuming sometime in like 1912, 1913.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
Um,
when he was like about 10, because Steinbeck was born in 1902.
okay, there you go. And that's kind of the perfect age to have a dear relative die, if there is a good age. Like obviously, ideally, you'd have a long time with them, but like if you have someone in your life that dies when you're 10, like they probably die almost perfect to you.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Your uncles
right.
are the coolest when you're 10 years old.
Yeah, no one's cooler than an uncle when you're 10. Like, because when you're 10, like people don't tell you the bad things going on in their lives. Like when you're 10, you don't have a Facebook account so you can read what your uncle is posting and be like, oh, that's really not good. Like I really disagree strongly. So like, and not that Tom would have had, and not that Tom would have had Facebook or been problematic even, but like I feel like that has something to do with like the greatness that Steinbeck is, because really it's Steinbeck that's putting this greatness on him, because he probably barely even knew Samuel. I doubt Samuel had a heart to heart with John Steinbeck and was like, your Uncle Tom has this greatness. Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of all in his mind, sort of thinking like, what would my grandfather have thought of my uncle who was great, who I loved.
Yeah.
Um,
To add to that, another way Steinbeck immortalized Tom was he named one of his sons Tom.
oh, did he?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and so I don't know. I think that might be the key to some of Tom's greatness that Steinbeck attributes to him, is that he died when Steinbeck was very very young,
Mm-hmm.
and so Steinbeck, never had to grapple with the darker parts of him, perhaps, and
Yeah.
his faults were easier to forgive, um, and he was able to kind of make him this great man in his mind. So, um,
I like it.
not sure I have like an overarching point. I just thought I was thinking about how old Steinbeck would have been when this would have happened, and kind of getting in his headspace thinking about his uncle who died, um,
No, I think
and
that's a
and
really good
how
observation.
how that would impact his writing. So,
Great
yeah,
tie-in.
that's the Nate's take on Tom.
Nice. Yeah, East of Ethan, not as deep, honestly. I was just gonna rank the first chapters to each part, So chapter 1, chapter 22, chapter 34, or whatever, because they all kind of had similar themes.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I was interested to go back and review them now that we had finished all the intro chapters to each part. So, on your memory, Nate, how would you rank the intro chapters to each part, or should I go over them one more time?
You might have to go over
Okay.
them. I don't think I've got those locked down.
Okay, so I'll rank them as this: 4, 2, 1, 3. And
Okay.
here's my reasoning. Part 4 is the one we just went in, and I think that it's the thesis of the novel, and I think it's the best intro chapter because it sums up everything that Steinbeck wants us to get from it, and it almost stands alone as its own thought piece. And he called it himself a refrain and a recapitulation of intention as an attempt to reestablish the pattern that was in the mind of the reader. So I think it was universal. I think most agree with what he would say in part 4. So that's number 1 for me. Second place is part 2, opening chapter. And this is the one where he splits up the 1800s and the 1900s. The great boundary called 1900. All the quotes like, "Where did all the good stones go? Strawberries will never taste so good, and the thighs of women have lost their clutch." And I put this at number 2 because I really liked it being a quick break from the story of, because part 1 ends with Charles sleeping with Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that now they're about to go set off on their adventure out west. And so I think it's a great setup for there. And I think it builds more on what was said in part 1's opener of how we kind of forget how the past actually was and that excitement for the future. So that's number 2 is part 2. And then to wrap them up, I did 3 was part 1's intro, was ranked number 3. And that's just the classic setup, but I think it's a little bit maybe too textbooky. I think that it could draw some readers out if they just say, "I'll start a chapter of this, and if I don't like it, I won't read it." And chapter 1 is nothing like what the rest of the book is, but it still has a really personal touch to it of the Salinas Valley. And there's a little bit of racism in there, and I think it's maybe a page too long, so I'll put that at 3rd. And then the final spot goes to part 3's opener, and that's like, it's the longest one by a lot. Every one is about 5 pages or less, and this one was 17 pages, and this was that essay of like, or musing of the Hamilton family tree, where we go over Una and Desi, and it's kind of like, haven't we already gone over all the Hamiltons? And
We're doing it again. Yeah.
we're doing it again, and it's not a bad chapter, but it does kind of act more of a segue to build up to, this is how Sam and Liza left the ranch, because it was like the master plan of the children. So I'll put that one in last. It's kind of like one of these things is not like the other, and I think that one is the main difference. So I do 4, 2, 1, 3 is my ranking.
Yeah. Well, cool. I wouldn't have thought to do that. So excellent. We've ranked them. I'd have to agree.
Yeah.
You're stamped. I love ranking things. I should be ranking things.
I love ranking things.
You get me into college football people, I'll do it. Okay.
Netflix adaptation notes.
That's right. This is, I mean, again, this covers such a spread of time.
Yeah.
How much Tom and Desi do you think they're gonna do? Like,
I wouldn't be surprised if it gets cut out completely.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I wouldn't be surprised if when they're adapting this, they're like, we are really focused on the Trasks. Like, the Hamiltons are going to be like side characters, and you wouldn't even know if you only watch the show that they were super involved in the book. Like, like maybe you would maybe think Will Hamilton is the most involved Hamilton in the because like he's the one that's going to interact with the Trasks quite a bit. Because I could just see that being like, hey, we've got 7 episodes. The Trasks is where the drama is. The Hamiltons are a nice backdrop, but like we can't give them that much screen time. So
Sam will just come in with the scene to deliver the babies, and maybe the naming of the children.
The other question I had was like, what is this Do you know? Have they announced a rating for this? Like, is it going to be
I haven't seen a rating
TVMA,
yet.
PG
Let me see.
13? Like, what's their? Because like the whorehouse plays this nasty whorehouse plays a pretty prominent role in the story.
Yeah.
Um,
No rating yet, but
no
it's got to be
rating yet.
TVMA. Unless they could do
TV.
TV-14 if they want it shown in English classrooms.
Yeah, it's like because you can probably show a whorehouse without showing anything.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the more tactful way of going about it, right? Like everything's dark, everything is, you get like weird shots of people's faces,
Hmm.
right? The camera cuts away before things really get out of hand, and like with a lot of what Steinbeck writes, the bad stuff happens off screen, right? Like
Yeah.
it's happening, you don't see it. The way Steinbeck doesn't write out all of these things.
Yeah. I mean, there's not really any real violence in here. No language. So
Yeah, they could maybe get away with like the TV-14, PG-13.
one thing that I was thinking could be cool would be to use some of the sentences from chapter 34 as like black background, italicized script text at the start of each episode. Humans are caught in a web of good and evil. And then like the episode
Interesting.
starts. And then episode 2 starts and was I remembered for good or for evil? Or, that could just be a way to incorporate some of his themes every single episode.
Like in The Wire,
Like like in the Wire.
which I'm sure you're
Yes.
watching.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
What do we got
Steinbeck
after him?
Stats. Steinbeck Stats here.
Oh
Okay.
yes, go off, King.
So one thing that I found curious, a synonym of interesting, is that up until he wrote the Tom and Desi story, he was going at a pretty good pace. If I'm just taking published pages and the dates that he's written, it took him 184 days to write the first 385 published pages that lead up to the Tom and Desi story. So that's about 2.1 pages per day. Okay. He started the intention to write the Tom and Desi story on August 3rd, a day after his son Tom's birthday.
Hmm.
And Tom is also a sad boy. So he's got Tom sad uncle, Tom sad son.
Really?
And so I wonder if, because he didn't start writing the Tom and Desi story until the 6th. And so I wonder if he was just like really sad. He kind of talked about he's been like a method writer. Maybe he was really trying to get him into a really sad, dark place to write about the Tom and Desi story. So 3 days of no writing. And then it took him 7 days to write the Tom and Desi story, which is about 22 published pages. So he was writing 3.1 pages a day there compared to his 2.1 pages a day. So he really went through it at a quicker pace while he was writing it. But then once he finished it, he needed another 4 days of rest because it tired him out. And then he needed another 3 days of rest because he wanted to get himself back into a chipper state of mind to continue the rest of the story. So even though it took him 7 days to write, it actually took him more like 14 days with all the resting. And so I think it was a pretty taxing part of the novel for him to write. So yeah, there was that. It was interesting. And then the other tidbit that I thought was cool is when he started book 4, he, in his manuscript, reset the page count to 1. So he was at, 500 or whatever, and then rewrote it as
Really?
1 because he mentally wanted to give himself a freshness for entering part 4. So he wrote down that he felt like the book had scattered a bit. Part 4 was him tightening it up. And
Well, that's good news.
yeah,
Yeah, that'll be good. Well, maybe, if we're about to tighten up, that's exciting, right? Because we got, 150 pages left?
150 pages.
All right. He's very intentional in all his writing, like wanting to feel a certain way.
He's the
I
goat.
like it.
The goat.
Yeah. People are saying many such cases. All right.
Okay, your
Yeah.
final predictions here. Last
Oh,
episode,
my
you said, quote, "This is a layup. Adam and Desi get together." So,
No.
Cal investigates his mother and meets her, but doesn't tell her who he is.
Give me
I'm
a
gonna give some.
half. Give
I'm
me an
gonna give
orange.
orange.
Yeah, give me
Orange
yellow
there.
or
Yellow. Orange.
yeah.
Orange. Yellow means we don't know yet.
Oh, okay, orange. I'm half right.
Yeah. And then we said
We
Kathy
didn't get
refuses the money. We
we
don't
didn't
know
get any
yet about
Kathy
that.
action here.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's got to be wrong. Like
Okay.
so much time's passed. Like I feel like at the start of the next chapter, the boys are gonna be like 18, like young adults. And that would mean it will have been like 7 years since she learned about the money, and for her not to have done anything, it's like
Mm-hmm.
I think
Good
I think
point.
that's past. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think I was wrong
Kathy,
about her.
no more money plot.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, what do I want to predict here? So clearly one or both of the boys has got to meet Kathy in this next chapter or in these next couple chapters.
Okay.
Who should it be? Huh? Who do you think? I'm going to go with Aaron finds out about Kathy.
Okay.
And in his Puritan like intensity, like decides that he needs to end this whorehouse and decides to rally some intense political action. I don't know how much time's going to pass, but like he's going to take steps. He's going to try to get the members of his church really into destroying Kate's whorehouse. And we're going to get kind of Aaron versus Kate and with their like intense intense feelings about humanity.
Sweet. Good prediction.
I mean, I haven't gotten one right in a while.
No, your last one you got right was Adam is Sam's successor in the story.
Oh, yeah. You know, I'm just going to leave it at that. I mean, that's one very big specific prediction. I don't have anything else.
Okay. Nice. Well, 3 more episodes to go. Can't believe we've come this far. I can't believe we've talked about East of Eden for, see, we're averaging about 110 minutes. 9. For 16 and a half hours now, we've talked about East of Eden.
That is quite a lot, yes. I mean, we'll see how much comes out in actual podcast form. We might have to edit out everything I said. So we might have to go through and just be like, we're gonna take out like 20 minutes at a time of you blabbering. We're gonna shorten this. So it might come across as like 8 total hours for listening.
For listening.
Yeah. But we'll see. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all for today, I suppose.
All right. You are Knuff.
I am Knuff, yes.
You are Knuff.
Always have been. And I suppose I have 2 bits of advice, that you, the listener, are Knuff. And to never fly uphill, me boys.